Hello guys, Prairie here. Welcome to today's video. So guys, in today's video, we're going to be looking at external functions within Snowflake. We're going to look at what external functions are, and then we're also going to walk through a step-by-step guide how to set up an external function within AWS as an AWS Lambda, connect it to a gateway, and then from within Snowflake, we're going to invoke that function to do some predictions for us. This is a very powerful and versatile capability to have in your tool belt as an analytical professional working on the Snowflake platform. Now, there are a lot of resources that are available, and I'm going to leave all of this in the description below. One of them is what we have here on the screen, and it goes through at a very high level what the architecture of an external function from within Snowflake looks like. So if you see on the screen from Snowflake, we can use REST API, invoke a Lambda, which that's what we're going to be using as an example here, through the gateway, and that Lambda can perform whatever transformation we have, and we get the result back into our Snowflake environment. We know Snowflake is SQL based, but you might have situations where your Lambda has been implemented a lot of logic in Python, in Scala, or in some other language, and you want that logic available to your data set. External functions gives us the capabilities to do that very transparently. Now, there is a documentation for this on the website on Snowflake, very easy to follow documentation, but I'm recording this video for those of us that prefer to watch things by video. You can either follow that documentation, or I'll take you step by step on setting this up from the point of creating your Lambda all the way to setting up the API gateway and also invoking that within your Snowflake platform. So that said, let's dive right in. So now we're going to walk through creating an external function on AWS using Snowflake. To do that, there are a couple of things that we need to do. The very first one, which we can see here on the screen, is we're going to have the Lambda function that is needed. So if you have an existing Lambda function, we can work with that. Otherwise, we can implement a brand new Lambda function. Once we have that, we're going to go through setting up the API gateway on the AWS side. So both of this will all happen on the AWS side. Once we get all of that set up, we're going to come back into Snowflake. We're going to create an API integration, which is an entity within Snowflake. We're going to use that API integration to actually call out to that Lambda function. And then once we have that, we're going to be able to put it all together from end to end, calling out to a Lambda function from within Snowflake. So really exciting. Step by step, we're going to walk through that. Now, first things first, we're going to have to create our Lambda. Like I said, if you have a Lambda function already, you can work with it. Otherwise, we can go through creating a very simple Lambda here. So to do that, we're going to select Lambda from our list on the AWS portal. So just simply search for Lambda, and we're going to click on that. Now, I have some existing Lambdas here, but to create a brand new function, we're just going to go ahead and click on Create Function. We're going to author the function from scratch, right? There are situations where you might use a blueprint, or you might browse the repository to get some templates from there. So let's just go ahead and create a brand new Lambda from scratch. So give it a name, through demo Lambda YT, so YouTube. So we're just going to give it a very simple name. And in this case, we're going to be working with a Python Lambda. So our Lambda is going to be a Python Lambda, but of course you can implement it in Java or in any other programming language. The next piece here, we're going to keep this the default. This is going to basically create a role for us. We're going to use this role. If you have an existing role you want to use, you can certainly do it, but for now we're going to go with the default one because we're going to be using it a little bit later on. So that said, let's go ahead and click on create the function. Usually this takes about a minute or so, depending on how AWS is performing on that day, and it's going to generate the Lambda for us. Alright, so now we have a brand new Lambda function. This is nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a basic Lambda. We haven't changed anything. To actually see the code of that Lambda, you can click on that, scroll to the bottom, you can see the implementation of it. Very basic stuff. We haven't changed anything, and you can actually test the Lambda to see that can you invoke this Lambda and get a result. Alright, I usually do this just from a testing perspective. I'll come in here, configure a brand new test, call it fruit test. Well, it doesn't like that, fruit test. I can delete all the keywords from in there. You don't have to, but I usually do that. And once I have that, I'm going to create a test. Now I can go ahead and test that Lambda. So once we do that, you see it returns a result, right? So the body of it is hello from Lambda, and that's basically returning what we have in here. So hello from Lambda. When you invoke that Lambda, it just dumps out that JSON to the screen. So nothing fancy. Now, if you have your own specific implementation of a Lambda, say a machine learning model or something exotic you've built in Python, you can go ahead and put that in here. So I have some stuff which I've pasted in here. Nothing fancy, it's just a basic Python code. It takes some random numbers and returns to me like I'm simulating a score, like a machine learning score. But you can certainly implement whatever you want in here. One thing to note is that your result has to be in JSON, and that was called out in here. So if you're reading through this documentation and following this as well, what you'll notice is your payload coming back from your Lambda needs to be in this format, in this JSON format. Otherwise, Snowflake will not be able to interpret it. So just something to be aware of in case you run into issues. I would definitely want to look at that. All right, now I have a Lambda. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I can test it again if I want. In this case, I'm not going to go ahead and test it. I know the code works. I've tried it before. So my Lambda exists. And what you see is now I have an earn to use for that Lambda. All right, and we're going to keep track of this. We're going to keep track of this. So one of the beauties, if you're following the instruction here, is there is this checklist of things that you want to keep track of. All right, so what I did was I copied this into my Snowflake environment. Now, I have a trial account here which I'm using for this demonstration. As we're going through and creating some of these objects, I'm going to be capturing the information that we need into this location. All right, this is really handy to just kind of keep track of what is it we're creating. So for the first thing that we have a Lambda function. What we want to do is add a trigger to this Lambda function. So we're going to go ahead, click on add a trigger, and we're going to have to add an API gateway trigger. All right, so API gateway is a trigger that we want to add. So I can go ahead and select this, and it's going to ask for my API gateway. Do I have anything? Not yet. All right, not yet. So I can either use this to create the API gateway, or I can go into the into a separate UI and do it from there. All right, let's just use this as an example to create the API gateway starting from here. So I'm going to go ahead, create a new API gateway. And in this case, there are two options. Do we want HTTP or do we want a REST API? In this case, we want a REST API in this case. All right. How do we want to authenticate with this, right? In this, so I'm going to go ahead and choose the IAM role. That's how we're going to authenticate with this. All right, there are some additional things in here that we can set in terms of the stage and all of that, but you can keep this with the defaults for now. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So now I have a trigger, right? The API gateway. So basically, if you think about it, you're coming through the gateway, and the gateway is going to be able to invoke my function. So let's take a look at the gateway. So we've added that. You can select that, and you will see the gateway below here. So let me go ahead and open this up. You can see there is the API endpoint that we're going to also need. All right, and then there is the API gateway. But before we can go ahead and start using this API endpoint, there's a couple of things that we need to set up again. So the very first thing is, let's get into that API gateway itself. So I'm going to click on that and dive a little bit deeper into the API gateway, because we're going to have to give some permissions to that API gateway. So once we come in here, this is the gateway opener for us. It has the earn, which we're going to need. We're going to need this as well. All right, and it's talking to the Lambda proxy. The proxy is going to call that Lambda, and it's going to return the result for us. So visually, this kind of tells us what's happening. But there are a couple of things that we need to do here to make it work. The very first one is, I don't want to invoke this by any, right? I want to invoke this by post methods. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead, select this, and I'm going to delete this method. All right, so I'm going to delete that any method. But what we'll do is we're going to create a brand new method in here, and this will be a post method. All right, and so you can go ahead and select that. So we want to have a brand new post method. Now once we have that, we come into this page. It's very important, and this is important, that we select, yeah, and you can read what this is. We select this use Lambda proxy integration. All right, so we're gonna have to select that, and then remember what's the name of the Lambda function. Let's go back. You can either go back here and grab the name, or you can go back to your worksheet where we had that name, and we can copy the name of the Lambda function we just created. All right, So once we have that, we're gonna paste that name in here, so it knows when you come through the post, it knows what Lambda is gonna invoke. So very really important. Now once we have that, I'm gonna go ahead and save. Now it says you're about to give API gateway permissions to invoke your Lambda function. Is that what we want to do? Of course, that's what we want. All right, so let's go ahead and click OK on that. Save. Now, before we had any, now we have post. All right, we really want this to be a post method. And if I go back into my Lambda, you will notice that if I refresh on this page, you don't have to do this, but if I come back here and I do a refresh on this page, what you see is that it's gonna show me, if I click on this, my new method here. So this is a new method that we created, which is post. The other one was any. All right, so I can literally delete this because I don't need it anymore. All right, I want to come into this Lambda with a post method for this scenario. So let's go ahead, delete that. So we can close that. If we go back to our API gateway, there are a couple of things that we still need to do here. The very first one is we're gonna have to change the auth. Right now there is no authorization coming in, so we're gonna have to click on that and change the authorization here to AWS IAM. All right, so it's really important that we do that, and that's the only thing that we need to change from there. All right, so save that, and if you go back to our function, we've changed that to an AWS IAM authorization. Now, a couple of more things that we need to set up. One of them is looking at the stages. We have a stage default already, so I'm not gonna really change that. Authorizers, nothing really to change here. Gateway response, nothing to change, right? We can keep it as such. But the thing that we want to work with is the resource policies. All right, so we want to set up the resource policies for what needs to access this particular API, right? So we're gonna fill in this resource policy page, and if you read what this says, is this allows us to control the private API using resource policy. So this is a very important piece that we need to fill. And how do you get the information for that? If you come in here and you scroll down, there is a template that you can use to fill in the resource policy page. So let's find a resource policy. So if you just search for resource policy, this is the template that you need to fill in that resource policy page. And it's going to require you to put in your 12-digit number. And this talks about where to get that information from, your 12-digit account number. And the format is going to be exactly the same, right? You're going to have to put in your external function role and fill in the details exactly the same. So this is very important. Now, I have mine set up already. So I'm going to go ahead. Right, so I've put in the information for my resource policy, and this is all taken care of. And this is a very important step. Now, I can go ahead and save my resource policy. And if I go back to my resources, I should see everything here now should be good on this point. You can go ahead and verify that everything is ready, and you can go ahead and deploy your API when ready to your default environment. So in this case, I'm just simply deploying that to my default environment. And here it gives us the URL to invoke this API. Now we're going to switch back here to our checklist to see what we've done so far. All right, so far we've come along. We've created a remote service, which is a Lambda function. We've seen that. We've created a proxy API gateway, which is what we just did here. We have an API gateway. All right, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to create an API integration within Snowflake. All right, so we're going to go back to Snowflake now. We're going to create an API integration within Snowflake. So I'm going to come in here, set up my context within Snowflake just to give me the warehouse and everything that I need. And let me zoom in here for a second. All right, so now once I have that set up, I'm gonna go ahead, and this is what we use to create an API integration. So it's basically create or replace API integration, whatever your API name is. All right, and then we're gonna say API provider is, it's an AWS API gateway. The ARN, the API AWS role ARN name, we're gonna provide that, and the allowed prefixes, we're also gonna provide that. So this is really key. Now, I didn't necessarily fill out all the names as we went up there, but this is why you should be filling this out as you're going through. So let's start. What we're gonna do now in Snowflake is to go ahead and create the API integration. Now, there is a template you can use step by step to follow on creating the API integration. If you go back into the documentation, it does show you what that API integration should look like. Right? So you need the API role on, which you can grab, and then you're also going to need the prefix, which you can grab, and I'm going to show us how to do it. So I've taken care of that already. I'm going to go ahead and paste my information in here. All right, so what you see is going to be my role on, and for your on, you're going to have to again replace and use the service account that you need for your particular situation. All right, your service role that you need allowed prefixes. The way you get that is you go back into your API or into your Lambda, and if you expand on that, you can grab your allowed prefixes from here. So this is basically going to be your endpoint. So that's what we need. So let's go ahead and copy that. All right, so that's what we need. Now, mine is this way. Yours might be a little bit different. So let's go ahead and create this integration within Snowflake. And it successfully created the integration for us. Now, what we're going to do now is describe that integration. And this is important. There is a step in here that shows you how to describe the integration. All right, it's going to give us some information that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and describe that integration. So once you describe that, it's going to give some information that's really important, and we're going to need this. All right, so it's going to give us the IAM role and some API external ID and just a whole lot of different information that we're going to need. All right, so the way we're going to use that is we're going to go back to the IAM role that we're using for that Lambda, and we're going to select that role, which I did here already. So you can go back to roles, you can find the role that you need, and what we're going to do is we're going to click on trust relationships. All right, so we're going to have to create a trust relationship on that role. So we're going to edit that, and we're going to have to fill in these details here. You can go ahead and find what that trust relationship will look like. It looks something like this. All right, you can simply copy this template, plug that in, and fill in the details. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I think I have that copied already. Now, once you've edited the trust relationship, we're going to go ahead and update the policy. All right, so really important to get those values exactly correct. Now, another thing that we're going to have to do is attach a couple of policies. These are not necessary, but if you run into permission issues, you definitely want to check to make sure that these are all updated. So I'm going to attach one policy. The very first policy, it would be the AWS Lambda full access. All right, you might, in your situation, you might not have to give full access, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, so I throw that in there. Another one that I'm going to add is the Amazon API gateway invoke full access, just to allow this to be able to fully invoke my API. All right, so now that's said, let's go ahead. I think we're kind of getting close. We've done a couple of things here. We've just to recap, we've gone through, we've done a lot actually. We've set up the Lambda function, we've set up our gateway, we've created the API integration, we've used that API integration to go back and to give access to the users on the AWS side for that principle on the AWS side. So now we're kind of getting to the point where, so this is all saved. My API gateway is ready. I think we've deployed it. Let's deploy it one more time again to production, just so that we have that. And my Lambda is all ready. So this Lambda, if I do a refresh of this, is being invoked by this API which we've set up. So what I'm going to do is go back into my Snowflake environment, and now this is where it gets really exciting. So now that we have everything set up, we're ready to go ahead and create our external function. And this external function, as you can see we have on the screen here, is going to leverage the API integration that we created above, and it's going to reference the endpoint for that Lambda. All right, and basically you get the endpoint by going to the Lambda. And if you go back to the Lambda functions, so Lambda YT, you can just simply go to the API gateway, and the endpoint is visible to us there. So that's the endpoint we're using. So that's what we're specifying here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create this external function. Here it's called predict patient's ML model, right? So this could be a machine learning model sitting behind that Lambda, and we're gonna go ahead and call that. Now, this is for the Lambda we just created. I'm gonna go ahead and call that function with which was a predict ML model. We're just gonna give it a value 99, and I'm gonna wrap it around a pass JSON. All right, and you can see it's gonna reach out to our Lambda, and it's gonna return a value of 1 because it's just gonna give us a score based on the customer number. Behind the scenes, it's just a random number generator, but if you try it again, you can see that the number is gonna keep changing based on just some random number that we have running behind the scenes. All right, and because that's JSON, we can go ahead and use dot notation within Snowflake to actually pick out specific values within within the payload that gets returned back. All right, guys. So we've gone through a lot through setting up external functions within Snowflake, a very powerful tool, a very powerful capability. We've seen how to set up a Lambda. We've seen how to create the API gateway, set up all the API integrations. We've used that API integrations to create an external function. And last but not least, we've gone in to see how we can actually call that external function within our code. All right, and that external function could be a scoring model. So this is how you can start bringing data science into your workflow. You can start bringing scoring into your workflow. You can start reaching out to the millions and billions of APIs that are out there, wrapping that around the Lambda, and then just calling that Lambda within Snowflake to really supercharge and to transform your data. So guys, thank you for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. A little bit of a longer lecture, but if you have any questions going through this setup, don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section below. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link to that page that we followed in the comment section below, so you can follow through step by step. It's really easy to get this set up, and it can really do a lot for your data pipelines. Thanks again for watching through here. I'll see you next time.